She came up the porch step of the ranch house at the head of the lane with a small worn carpet bag in her right hand and a folded sheet of newspaper in her left, and she set the carpet bag down on the porch board and held the folded sheet of newspaper out toward the man at the porch step. You ran this. He did not take the sheet. I did not. She did not lower the sheet. It is your name at the bottom of it, Mr. Halder, Owen Halder, Halder Ranch, mile marker 11 on the South Road. It is your name in the print, and it is your section, and it is your road. I am Wren Calloway. I came up from Junction City on the freight wagon this morning. I have been on the road since Tuesday last. The advertisement said a wife. I did not run it, he said. Before we continue, if stories like this mean something to you, hit subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love seeing how far these stories travel. Owen Halder was 34, broad in the shoulder, lean across the chest, a faded blue chambray work shirt with the sleeves rolled past the elbow and a worn dark leather vest hanging open over it. Dark canvas trousers worn shiny at the knee, scuffed brown stovepipe boots with the dust of the south pasture still along the toe, a small, fresh nick of blood at the base of his right thumb from a fence wire he had pulled at noon. He had a steady gray eye, and he held a look without making anything of it. He looked at the sheet of newspaper. He looked at her face. He looked at the carpetbag on the porch board. I will look at the sheet, he said. She gave him the sheet. He held it in both hands and read the small printed lines once and then read them a second time, his mouth not moving and his face not changing, and then he folded the sheet on the same folds it had come up with and held it out to her again. That is my name, that is my section. That is my road. Yes, I did not write the words. She took the folded sheet. She did not put it in her bag. She held it. Miss Halder, yes, I have come a long way today on a wagon that is not coming back this side of Friday. I have $8 in this bag, and I have a letter in this bag from my aunt, and I have a folded sheet from a paper at Junction City that said a man at this ranch on this section, on this road, was looking for a wife. I am not looking for a wife. I am looking to be the wife. Those are two different things. I am telling you the difference plain at the porch step before you ask me into the kitchen for a cup of water, because I have been at 3 porch steps in 3 months and I am tired of standing. He set his hand on the porch rail. Miss Calloway. Yes, I am not looking for a wife. I heard you. I did not write the words. I heard that too. He looked at her a long moment. You are tired. I am tired. The kitchen is through the door behind me. The cup is on the shelf above the basin. The water in the pail is from the morning. You will sit down at the table and you will take a cup. We will talk about the sheet once you are sitting. He stepped aside from the porch step. She did not move up the step for one long breath. She had not let her hands fidget the whole time she had been standing, because she had trained that out of herself in a kitchen her aunt had been particular about. She did not let her hands fidget now either. She picked up the carpet bag. She came up the porch step. She went past him through the open door. The kitchen was clean and small. A worn, warm honey amber pine table in the middle of the floor with 2 wooden chairs at it. A small black iron cook stove against the back wall. A shelf above a tin basin with 3 hammered tin cups and a brown stoneware crock. A small 4-paned window above the basin facing the long brown slope of the south pasture and a line of cottonwoods gone gold at the irrigation ditch beyond. She set the carpet bag against the wall by the door. She took down a tin cup. She filled it from the pail. She drank it standing. He came in behind her. He hung his brown felt hat on the wall peg by the door, on the peg beside an empty second peg, and he took down his own tin cup and filled it from the pail and sat down at the table. She sat down at the chair across from him. He laid his hands flat on the warm pine of the table. Miss Calloway, I have run this ranch 9 years. I came up the South Road myself when I was 25. I had a wife. Her name was Margaret. She died in the second summer after the cottonwoods went gold 3 years ago this month. I have not put an advertisement in a paper in 3 years, and I do not intend to. Someone else wrote the words. I do not yet know who. She did not speak for the space of one breath. I am sorry about Margaret. He nodded once. Whoever wrote the words wrote them well. They wrote the name and the section and the road. They wrote that the man at the ranch is steady and honest. They wrote that he keeps a clean kitchen. They wrote that he is looking for a wife. The words made the wagon worth riding for a woman who has nothing left at the place she came from, which is the kind of woman who reads an advertisement in the back of a paper at Junction City on a Tuesday afternoon. I read it on Tuesday afternoon. I sold my mother's small good dish on Wednesday morning. I bought the wagon seat on Thursday. I came up the South Road this morning. That is the matter on my side. He looked at her. That is fair. She set the tin cup down. I would like to know whose name it would have been on if it had not been yours. He did not answer her at once. I think I know. You do not have to tell me. I will tell you on Friday when I have asked the man it would have been on. I will not tell you a name on a Tuesday in a kitchen I have not asked him about yet. That is fair, too. He looked at the cup in his hand. Miss Calloway. Yes, the wagon does not come back this side of Friday. It does not. The room at the back of the house was Margaret's sewing room. It has a narrow bed in it that I made for her when she was sick. It has a cedar chest at the foot of the bed and a small window facing the cottonwoods. The door has a wooden latch. The room is yours from now until Friday morning at sun-up when the wagon goes back down the South Road. The rate is no rate. You are not a boarder. You are a woman who came up the road on the strength of words I did not write. And the words are my responsibility because my name was at the bottom of them. That is what the room is. On Friday morning at sunup, you will decide whether you are getting on the wagon or whether you are not. I will decide nothing on your behalf between now and then. That is the matter on my side. She kept her hands flat on the warm pine of the table. Mr. Halder, yes, I will take the room from now until Friday morning at sunup. He nodded once. Supper is at 6. Breakfast is at 6. There is a pail in the basin, and there is a second pail at the pump. I am at the south pasture between dinner and supper most days through the second week of September. I will be at the pump at the back of the house at 6 tonight to wash up. The wagon shed is past the corral, but you will not have any reason to go in there. The corral is past the wagon shed. The cottonwoods are past the corral. You may walk to the cottonwoods if it suits you. The kitchen is yours between dinner and supper. It suits me. He stood up. He took his hat off the peg. He went out the back door of the kitchen toward the south pasture. She heard him at the pump for 1/2 a minute, and then she heard his boots cross the yard, and then she heard the wire gate at the corral open and close, and then she did not hear him. She sat at the table for one long, quiet breath. Then she got up. She washed her tin cup. She dried it. She put it back on the shelf above the basin. She walked to the back of the house with her carpet bag. The room had been a sewing room. There was a small, worn pine table at the window with a folded length of unfinished pale calico still on it under a thin film of clean dust, a needle still set in the calico, a pair of dressmaker's shears beside it, a narrow bed against the inner wall with a cream wool blanket folded at the foot, a cedar chest at the foot of the bed, a wooden chair beside the bed, a small painted oval frame on the chest with a tintype in it of a young woman in a clean pale Sunday dress with her hair up, looking at the camera the way a woman looks who is not yet sick. Wren Calloway set the carpetbag at the foot of the bed. She did not touch the tintype. She did not touch the calico on the table. She sat down on the chair beside the bed, and she put her face in her hands for the space of 3 slow breaths. And then she lifted her face, and she did not cry, because crying was something she had trained out of herself a long time ago in a kitchen her aunt had been particular about, and she stood up and she walked back to the kitchen. By 6, the supper was on the table, a pan of fried potatoes with onion, a small dish of pickles from the crock on the shelf, a loaf of cold yesterday bread cut into thick slices, a pot of fresh coffee. She had found the food where a woman who had run a kitchen for 9 years would have kept it, because a kitchen is a kitchen, and she had been raised in one. He came in at 6:05 with his hat in his hand and the dust of the south pasture on his sleeves. He washed at the pump. He came back. He sat down at the table. He looked at the food. I did not ask you to, I know it. He picked up his fork. The potatoes are good. The pan is hot. He cut a slice of bread. He spread butter on it. He set it back down on the edge of his plate. Miss Calloway. Yes, I rode out to the south pasture this afternoon, and I asked the man it would have been on. She set her fork down. It was on him. It was a man named Pelgero who freights between Junction City and the Section Road. He is 50 and red-faced, and he has a wife in Junction City and 3 sons in his wagon yard, and he has known me 11 years. He came up the South Road 3 months back with the first cutting of hay for the corral, and we had a long supper at this table, and I told him that I had not had a winter of being alone yet that was worse than the second winter, and that I had been thinking about whether the third winter would be a winter at the table by myself or whether it would not. I told him that I did not know what I was going to do about the matter. I told him that I was not going to put an advertisement in a paper, because an advertisement in a paper was not the way a halter did a thing. He went home to Junction City, and he wrote the words at his own table, and he gave them to the paper at Junction City, and he paid the $4, and he signed my name at the bottom of them. He did not write to me first. He did not write to me after. He sat on his wagon seat at the freight house at Junction City on Tuesday afternoon, and he watched a young woman read the back of the paper while she waited for her wagon, and he watched her fold the sheet and put it in her glove, and he watched her buy her seat for Friday. He told me all of that at the south pasture an hour ago without taking the saddle off his horse. He said he had been waiting for a woman to come up the road since the second week the paper ran. He said he had thought the woman would have come up by now. He said I was welcome. She kept her hands flat on the warm pine of the table. Mr. Garrow is a friend of yours. He was. He looked at her a long moment. He is still a friend of mine. He did a thing I did not ask him to do, and he did it without my name being on the paper in my hand, and he made a wagon worth riding for a woman who did not have anything to ride back to. I am angry with him. I am also a man who does not throw 11 years over for one bad piece of work. I will speak to him on Friday at the freight house at Junction City, and I will say what needs saying. And I will pay him back the $4, and the matter of him will not be at my table again. That is the matter of him. That is fair. He picked up his fork. The matter of you is a separate matter, I know it. He did not say anything else at supper. She did not either. After supper she washed the dishes at the basin, and he dried them with a clean cloth from the peg by the basin. And they did not speak while they did it, and the quiet at the kitchen was the quiet of a kitchen where two people who have not stood in a kitchen together before are finding out that they can stand in one together. He hung the cloth back on the peg. He turned the lamp on the table down. He took his hat off the peg by the door. I will be at the corral until first dark. I will be in the room at the back. He nodded once. He went out. She stood at the basin for one long breath with her hand on the rim of the tin, the way a woman stands at a basin when she has done a thing she had not been sure she could do, and then she dried her hands on the apron at her waist, and she turned the lamp down lower, and she walked to the back of the house. She did not touch the tintype that night either. Wednesday morning at 6 the breakfast was on the table. A pan of bacon, 3 fried eggs, the last of the cold yesterday bread cut into thinner slices, fresh coffee. He came in at 6:05. He washed at the pump. He sat down. He looked at the food. Miss Calloway, yes, you did not have to. I know it. I would have you not feel that you have to. I am not cooking because I feel that I have to, Miss Halder. I am cooking because the food was there, and a pan was on the stove, and I have been raised in a kitchen, and a kitchen with food in it, and a pan on the stove, and a woman in the door is a kitchen where breakfast gets made. If I were not cooking, I would be sitting at the table in the back room, looking at a folded sheet of newspaper and counting the dollars in my bag. The pen is the better matter. He set his fork down. The corner of his mouth moved. She did not see it because she had her back to him at the basin, but she heard the small sound of his fork being set down at a fried egg that had not yet been cut. And she knew the corner of his mouth had moved, because she had been at 3 porch steps in 3 months, and she had learned to hear the small sound of a man's fork being set down at the moment a corner of his mouth moves. She did not turn around. She kept her back to him and worked the basin, and did not smile until she was facing the wall. On Wednesday afternoon, Mrs. Esther Brunn came up the South Road from the section road in a worn buckboard with a basket of fresh shelled peas on the seat beside her. She was 58 and the widow of the freight clerk at the section road, and had taken upon herself the moral health of the south end of the section in the years since her own children had married off. She knocked at the front door of the Halder ranch house at 2:30 on a Wednesday afternoon, which was the first time she had come up the South Road in 3 years, and Wren Calloway answered the door in a clean cream apron over her faded dove-gray Tuesday work dress with her dark hair pinned up and one strand loose at her temple, and Mrs. Esther Brunn did not move from the porch step for one long breath. Mrs. Brunn, I do not know you. Wren Calloway, ma'am, the man. He is at the south pasture. I came to ask whether there was a woman at this house. There is a woman at this house. Mrs. Brunn, I am the woman. I came up the South Road yesterday morning on the freight wagon from Junction City on the strength of an advertisement in the back of a paper at Junction City that had Mr. Halder's name on it and that Mr. Halder did not write. The matter of the advertisement is a matter Mr. Halder has spoken to the man who wrote it. The matter of me is a matter that will be settled on Friday at sunup when the wagon comes back down the road. Until Friday at sunup, I am at the room at the back of the house at no rate, because Mr. Halder takes the words his name is at the bottom of as his responsibility, which he does. Will you come in for a cup, Mrs. Brunn? Or will you set the basket of peas on the porch board and turn the buckboard around? Mrs. Esther Brunn did not move for one long breath. She set the basket of peas on the porch board. She did not turn the buckboard around. She came in for a cup. She had a cup at the warm pine table of the Halder Ranch House kitchen for the space of 20 minutes, in which she did not say more than 7 sentences, but in which she watched the way Wren Calloway poured the coffee and the way Wren Calloway buttered a biscuit, and the way Wren Calloway set her cup down on the warm pine of the table, and at the end of the 20 minutes she stood up and took her gloves off the table and put them back on and went to the door. Miss Calloway: "Yes, Mrs. Brunn, the peas are good peas. They will want shelling tonight if you mean to use them tomorrow. I will shell them tonight. I will see you Sunday at the chapel. I have not yet decided about Sunday." Decide, she went out the door. She got back on the buckboard. She turned the buckboard around. She rode back down the south road, in plain sight of the road, with the dust at the wire gate settling slow behind her. Wren Calloway carried the basket of peas to the kitchen. She set it on the warm pine of the table. She sat down at the table. She did not let her hands fidget on the rim of the basket, because she had trained that out of herself a long time before in the same kitchen. That afternoon, Pelgero came up the south road himself in his freight wagon to make his case at the porch step. Owen Halder was at the corral with the bay mare when the wagon came up. He laid his hand on the bay's neck once. He walked across the yard. He did not let Pelgero off the wagon seat. Owen, you will not get off the wagon. I will not get off the wagon. The $4 is in this envelope. You will take it back at Friday at Junction City when I come down the road with Miss Calloway on the seat beside me. You will not come up this road again until I have come down it. You will not write words at your own table that are mine to write. You will not sit on a wagon seat at the freight house and watch a young woman read the back of a paper and call it a kindness. The $4 was the cost of the words. The cost of the woman is mine. I am paying it. That is the matter. I came up to say I was sorry. You have said it. You will say it again on Friday at the freight house at Junction City, and you will say it to Miss Calloway and not to me. That is also the matter. Pelgero took his hat off. He put it back on. He turned the wagon around. He went back down the south road in plain sight of the road, with the dust at the wire gate settling slow behind him. Owen Halder went back to the corral. He laid his hand on the bay's neck again. He stood at the rail for one long breath. He went back to the south pasture. On Thursday at supper, at the warm pine table of the kitchen, she set down a small wooden bowl of fresh-shelled peas and a pan of fried trout from the cottonwoods at the irrigation ditch, and a fresh loaf of bread from the morning bake. And he came in at 6:05 and washed at the pump and sat down across from her, and he looked at the food and did not say anything about it, and he ate slowly. The lamp was on the table. The light was warm on the warm pine. Miss Calloway: "Yes, the wagon comes back at 6 tomorrow morning. I know it. I have not decided anything on your behalf between Tuesday and tonight, because I said I would not, and I have not. I will say one thing tonight, and then I will say no more, because Friday at sun-up is yours. You may say it." He laid his fork down. "I was not looking for a wife on Monday. I was not looking for a wife on Tuesday morning before the wagon came up the south road. I am not the man at the bottom of the words Pelgero wrote. I would not have written the words. I would not have put my name at the bottom of them. I would not have done any of it the way it was done." She set her fork down too. He looked at her. "I am also a man who has stood in a kitchen with you for 3 days and who has watched you cook 3 meals and shell a basket of peas and stand at a porch step with a stranger and answer a door, and who knows what a woman who knows a kitchen looks like in one. I was a man who was not looking for a wife on Monday. I am a man on Thursday at supper at 6 who knows the difference between a wife and a woman in a kitchen, and I know the difference is not the food on the table. It is the woman. She did not speak for the space of 3 breaths. That is plain spoken, Misty, Halder. It is. She picked up her fork. I would have you tell me one thing also. You may tell it. She set the fork down again. I came up the South Road on Tuesday morning on the strength of words you did not write. The words you did not write are the only reason I am sitting at this table. If the words had not been at the back of the paper, I would still be at Junction City on a wagon seat to a place that does not have a porch step waiting for me, because I have run out of porches. That is the matter on my side. I have not come up the South Road because I am the woman in the words. I have come up the South Road because the words gave me a wagon seat. The wagon seat gave me a porch step. The porch step gave me a kitchen. The kitchen gave me 3 days. I would not have asked for any more than the 3 days, Mr. Halder, because I am 26, and I have been at 3 porch steps in 3 months, and I do not ask for more than 3 days at any one of them any more. That is fair. I am not the woman in the words, I know it. I am the woman in the kitchen, I know that too. She picked her fork up. That is what I came to say. That is what I came to hear. They ate the trout, they ate the bread, they ate the peas. The lamp burned warm on the warm pine of the table. She washed the dishes at the basin. He dried them with the clean cloth from the peg by the basin. He hung the cloth back, he turned the lamp on the table down. I will be at the corral until first dark. I will be at the kitchen. He nodded once. He went out. She did not go to the back room that night for a long time. She sat at the warm pine of the table with her hands flat on the wood, and she looked at the small 4-paned window above the basin, where the long brown slope of the south pasture was settling into the violet and gold of the warm dusk, and she stayed at the table until first dark, and then she got up, and she walked to the back of the house. She picked up the small painted oval frame on the cedar chest. She held it in both hands. She looked at the tintype of the young woman in the clean pale Sunday dress for the first time since Tuesday afternoon. She set it down again gently in the same spot, facing the way it had been facing. She did not cry. She had trained that out of herself a long time ago. She lay down on the narrow bed with the cream wool blanket folded at her feet, and she put one hand on the worn warm honey amber pine of the bed frame Owen Halder had made for Margaret when she was sick, and she slept. Friday at 6, the wagon came back down the South Road from the section road. It pulled up at the wire gate at the end of the lane. Pelgaro was on the seat. The bay mare in the corral lifted her head. Owen Halder came out of the kitchen onto the porch step with his hat in his hand. Wren Calloway came out behind him with her carpet bag in her right hand and the folded sheet of newspaper still in her left hand. She set the carpet bag down on the porch board. She did not give him back the folded sheet of newspaper. She set it on the porch rail. "You are coming down the road with me," said Pelgaro. "Pell, Owen, the lady is not coming down the road with you this morning. The lady is staying. You will not take it on yourself to ask her again. You will not take it on yourself to write any further word at your table. You will take the $4 I am holding out to you in my hand, and you will turn the wagon around, and you will go back down the South Road, and you will say at the freight house that the lady is at the Halder Ranch, and that the matter at the back of the paper is closed." Pelgaro took the $4. He took his hat off, he put it back on, he turned the wagon around. He went back down the South Road in plain sight of the road with the dust at the wire gate settling slow behind him. Owen Halder stood at the porch rail. He did not look at her. Miss Calloway. Yes, the room at the back of the house is yours for as long as you want it. It is. The peg by the door beside my hat is for your hat when you have a hat to hang on it. It is. The chair at the table across from mine at supper at 6 is your chair. It is. I am not asking you a question this morning. I am stating a thing in plain-spoken terms because I am a man who would rather state a thing once than ask it twice. If you would have me ask the question, I will ask it on Sunday after the chapel. If you would have me ask it sooner, I will ask it sooner. If you would have me not ask it at all, I will not ask it. That is the matter on my side. She set her hand on the porch rail next to his hand. She did not let her hand fidget on the rail. Mr. Halder, yes, you will ask it on Sunday after the chapel. He nodded once. Inside the kitchen, the coffee on the stove was hot. The lamp on the warm pine of the table was turned low for the morning light. The basket on the shelf above the basin held the last of the peas. The hat peg by the door beside his brown felt hat was empty. By the first week of September, his brown felt hat had moved over on its own from the first peg to the second peg, which was the peg by the door beside the empty peg, not all at once. By the second week of September, the empty peg was not empty. They were married on the third Sunday of September at the small, white-painted clapboard chapel at the section road, with Mrs. Esther Brunn standing up with her and Pell Garrow standing up with him, in the cool, warm gold light of the last full week of the cottonwoods, and the dust at the chapel steps settled slow at the boots of the people coming out. This was the story of Wren Calloway and Owen Halder, the woman who came up the South Road on words a man did not write, and the man who said he was not looking for a wife on a Tuesday and asked her on a Sunday after the chapel. Tell me in the comments if you enjoyed this one.